We are live now, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome everybody to this External Monitoring Committee on Tuesday the 1st of September. And today we'll be looking at Live Borders and working with our Live Borders colleagues. So I'll start by reading the mandatory script, just to remind us all that members and all attendees are advised that the public business in this meeting is being live streamed for public view and also recorded. By participating in the meeting, attendees give consent for this. The recording will be available through the link to the event live stream on the Council website for public viewing for 180 days afterwards. The recording will be automatically deleted after this time. And you're all reminded that the Council does not allow any other recording of the meeting than this one. Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to the agenda. So we'll start with apologies for absence.
We have received apologies from Councillor Anderson and Councillor Carol Hamilton and the Director of Resilient Communities, Jenny Craig.
Thank you very much. Number 2, order of business. I can confirm I have no intention to change the order of business this morning. And 3, declarations of interest. So just to remind members, if you have something you need to declare, please do it now or at the time of the paper and just give a brief description as to why. Okay, number 4, the minutes. Are members happy to agree the minutes of the last meeting on the 2nd of June?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the main paper of the day, and it's the Live Borders Performance Report for Q1. And for that, I'm going to pass you on to one of our senior managers, Jason McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. I'm just going to say a couple of words of introduction to this. It's the report for Q1 from April to June this year. There's positive trends across various indicators, including financial delivery for Live Borders. I'm really keen not to steal the thunder of both Katrina and Graham in giving you this update. So I'm just going to draw your attention to a couple of specific positives in sections 3.8 and 5.1 of the covering report. I'll also briefly mention that there's very effective ongoing communications and collaboration across SBC and Live Borders, and this is something that we're keen to build upon, and hopefully that kind of good work that's going on behind the scenes by officers across both organisations, but specifically by Live Borders, is something that we can continue to build upon moving forward. I'll pass over to Graham and Katrina to take you through the key aspects of the report then.
Thank you, Jason, and Graham is going to be my sidekick and share the slides, just to allow us to go through it now. Obviously, we've shared the report in advance, so I don't intend to go through every aspect of the report, but just to give you a flavour of some of the work that's been ongoing in Q1, and trying not to cut into anything that's into Q2, which is always difficult when you're a couple of months into the next quarter. So, Graham, if you could just put that into presentational mode, please.
I am doing my very best, and there we go.
There he is. It's beautiful. So what I thought would be useful today is just to start off giving you a little bit of a graphical illustration of the depth and breadth of what we're doing as an organisation. I think it's great when you read the Word report, the Word document, and you get some of the statistical analysis, but there's nothing like seeing the breadth of what we have going on within the organisation. I think what this also illustrates is, sort of a year ago when I came into office, I think some of the concerns that public had and council had was around the marketing and the communications of what was happening. So there was still a lot of good stuff happening, but we weren't being able to get that message out. This just gives you a little bit of flavour of what we've been up to in the quarter, and how we're now sort of graphically illustrating that. One of the pieces of work that we've got on it just now is further enhancements of that to get more of a standard look and feel for Live Borders, so you immediately know that it's a Live Borders cultural offering, or it's a Live Borders sporting offering, or it's a Live Borders Live Well referral offer. So, but we in this period we launched our kids holiday camps, and the launch, which is called Camp B. We opened a hydro pool in Gala Shields, and we started our triathlon series. The Great Tapestry managed to secure only one of 3 partners in Scotland with the Bear Tapestry. We've did the work, we secured the funding and did the work behind the unlocking the hidden cells at Jed Jail and the Malcolm Munro murder case. So the project was ongoing, but that just opened recently. Continued to do a wide range of swimming lessons and trying to get more teenagers involved in swimming lessons, which happened in this quarter. We had the Jim Clark Lego build as we opened for the season and made some operational changes at Jim Clark in terms of putting it alongside the tapestry and really enhancing the visitor journey and experience at Jim Clark. We sort of brought all the cultural offerings together under one sort of social media pages and sort of Live Borders culture to try and have a more singular place to promote everything we do in the culture. Continue to promote the cinema and family films at Heart of Hoyks. We had lots of different activities in Easter. Doesn't quite summer, but similar activities in Easter for children to come along and try. We obviously had a wide range of the museums opened in April for the season, range of live events and more activities in the libraries that are across nature, from book bugs to dementia groups, etc. So it's just a little flavour of what we've got. So if Graham moves on, we'll move into some of the analysis. So overall, the trends are positive. I think we'd just like to highlight a correction here. We did make a correction, but unfortunately the report had already been sent out. So the participation rates should be 331, 362, which is still trending upwards. We are really pleased with that, but there is a little bit of a cautionary tale in it, in that the budget for this year is just slightly higher than that. And we had quite stretched targets this year, which we're very close to, I have to say. But these participation figures show that the amount of people using the facilities is increasing every compared to the same quarter last year. It's just a smidge under what the budget's set for, but it's still, a really positive, strong trend. And we want to encourage that. Some things we've done around that is we've extended opening hours at Kelso, Selkirk, Teviotdale and Eyemouth. We have also, for example, at Teviotdale, worked with the team really hard to say, everyone must go through reception. We've now got receptionist roles back on that reception. The new Gala pool, you have to go to reception to be able to go through the door entry system. So all these things help us in terms of our data collection as well. And you can see that the cost per visit is coming down now. There is some clear factors around that. You have worked with us and you're aware that we made a number of significant savings in the last financial year, and then again by within restructuring the organisation, utilities coming down, some work around utilities. So we know that we've managed to cut our deficit in that period, so that obviously has a direct correlation, as well as the increased participation rates. Both have a strong correlation in driving down the cost per visit. So Graham, if you can move on to the next slide. Sports membership is probably one of the strongest areas of performance at the moment. That does have a slight knock-on effect that it reduces the amount of people that pay as you go for the services, but this is a good thing. We are also, as well as this, not resting on the laurels of that. We are doing a major piece of work just now looking at how we manage our membership services and how we engage with members and have regular dialogue with them, spot when maybe somebody has stopped coming as often as they were, and just give them some encouragement and reminders. So lots of good work going on there. What I think it also shows is if you cast your mind back around November, December time last year, we spoke to the council about wanting to invest in putting a gym into Kelso swimming pool, some new equipment at Eyemouth. We've totally refurbished TLC's gym, a little bit of spend at Selkirk and at Peebles, and we're talking modest amounts of money, and we rent that equipment. That investment improving the service has had a direct correlation to that increase in membership, and I think that should breed a little bit of confidence around the work of, if we invest in the services, we will see an improvement in the revenue as well. So junior membership continues to grow. That's a real area of growth for us that we're focusing on behind the scenes just now. And Learn to Swim membership also increasing well. Tri slightly down. It is starting to trend back upwards, and there's just peaks and flows, but real focus on Tri Fitness. Obviously, what we're doing with Paddle there will also strengthen that as a membership and product offering as well. Graham, so if you'd like to move on. Active communities. So obviously this is what we do just now. You might be aware that we had a report to council, or you will be aware, you were all there. We had a report to council last week to expand this area. But actually you can see that, it's activity is holding firm there. And we will see a massive transformation in this programme if the NHS come in and fund help fund that programme. We're all doing some work with them just now to offer some free places, free memberships beyond the programme, which is helping activity as well. And of course, we continue to work with the 10 community centres and supporting a lot of the work that they're looking to do around CAT transfer and asset transfer. But the referral activity is a really exciting one for us moving forward. And as you can see, really just, it's not even tip of the iceberg, very small numbers that we're able to work with just now. Okay. Museums, galleries and archives. This just needs a little bit of explanation. So Peebles Library, Peebles Museum, as you know, closed in April, and this is to allow for the refurbishment of the Chambers institution. So in terms of museums, when you factor the Peebles museum visits in the same quarter last year, museums footfall is held solid and is held in and around the same as the same quarter last year. And that's good. We have lots of work on at museums at the moment, and will be considering a review of how we operate those now that we have a new head of culture in place, to try and hopefully see that start to not just hold its position but trend upwards as well. So if we go to the next slide, we have had the same impact in terms of libraries. Sorry, is that back? No, this is continuing on. So same trend on libraries. However, when we factor in the loss of visits at Peebles, libraries are still down of roughly around, I think, 5,000. Was that right, Graham, in the quarter?
Yeah.
Same quarter last year. However, we can see a very solid trend in terms of online library borrowing, and one of the marketing parts we've been doing is letting people know that we have this really, really good service. If we haven't used it, I'm a user of it all of the time. I love it. The Borrow Box and the subscriptions, where you can get free subscriptions to newspapers and magazines, and through your being a resident and through joining the online libraries. And these are proving really popular. So we're still reaching people in terms of what the intended purpose of a library is, to allow people to interact with literature and magazines, newspapers, etc. But it is becoming less focused on physical, where we're also slightly down on mobile visits, but we have had some interruption to service through some mechanical issues with some of the vehicles, and actually due to an accident that one of the vehicles had, no fault of the vehicle, I believe, but that put it off the road for a period. But the mobile libraries, when up and operational, are still really well valued by those who use them. I think with Martha coming in as our head of culture, and a sort of new libraries lead in there, this is certainly an area that's going to get a lot of focus, and to sort of drive those visitors up, we're looking at what other activities can happen in the library, as well as the borrowing of books, to really focus the libraries in as a real community hub. And going into the winter, they are of course a safe heated space that we know that the communities value as well. Graham? So lots of different creative things been happening. We spoke about some of them at the start. Town halls still well used for performances. We streamed the colour bus can't pronounce that. Excuse me, this is my non-borders busing, is that right? The Gareth's Magic Balloons, G. Lafferty and Friends, that one was very popular, I believe, from some people I know who went. The Magic Flute, so real range of performances, and we've just publicised last week our winter range, which again has some real high level acts, but also really diverse range of acts. In Q1 we also did Art Along the Borders Railway competition at the Gate Tapestry, and you can see some of the exhibitions there, and that was helped with some funding from the Railway Community Partnership. So there was many more than that. We can't go into them all, but a really diverse range of things happening in the sort of creative arts and performing arts area. Thank you, Graham. So corporately, in terms of funding submissions, what I want to just to talk about there is we've been focusing our work on Q1 really on a new fundraising strategy, which was approved by the board just last month, which sets out our intention on fundraising over the longer term, looks at how we might resource that, looks at some sort of what our priority projects might be, and sort of being slightly more targeted in what we're trying to apply for, and really having really strong projects. What we've found is where you have a good project like the Jed Jail project, then your ability to leverage the funding becomes not easy, but easier, because you've got a specific thing that you're trying to fundraise for. And we will be looking to try and fundraise and grant applications for the Chamber's institution in terms of our areas, the library and the museum, and trying to enhance them as we reopen. But it is really an up and down area, so it depends which funders open applications in a particular quarter. So we're not worried in terms of the overall year that submissions are lower. But you can see what we've submitted, we've got, which is encouraging. I am aware that in Q2 there is a number of things underway in terms of fundraising applications. We're also working on some roundtable events later in the year with philanthropic individuals, and are having lots of good discussions, and now have a clear strategy in place of how we want to try and fundraise moving forward. So that's an exciting development for us, but it will take resources. Fundraising needs personnel who are skilled in that area to be able to go out and do that, and to get the grants that are available as well. Can we move forward as well? Corporate headlines. So we've got the new head of engagement and started, and the marketing officer started this May. And I think in some of that illustrations I showed you earlier, you can start to see the impact of that. We're continuing to work on moving all employees across onto the same network, which will culturally make a big difference to us. And we're looking at replacing some key IT systems using Business World, which is the same system as the council uses. We also developed the strategy, and it was approved by board, and it launched in July. So that was another really key piece of work for us. And it really sets out what we're doing forward. And I think we've got a couple of slides on that. So I know most of you have if you attended the briefing, some of you will have seen this, but I just wanted to quickly go over the new strategy, which we launched in July, but obviously was a big part of Q1 in terms of developing it. Our purpose to improve health and well-being and widen access to culture, heritage, sport, lifelong learning, enabling people and communities to connect to their past, empower their present, and inspire their future in a thriving Scottish Borders. So a really clear purpose. What we also wanted to do is link that purpose back to our purpose as a charity, which also helps with the fundraising, and be quite clear that Scottish Borders Council fund us to operate their facilities for them, and that's a hugely key part of what we are as an organisation and what we do. But actually we also have the opportunity through our fundraising and grants to widen the delivery of that purpose beyond just our role in operation of facilities, really innovative programs and more exhibitions in those facilities or whatever it is to achieve that purpose. As a vision, at Scottish Borders, where cultural heritage, sport and lifelong learning are woven into everyday life and are valued, used and championed by the communities we serve. And that's a really important vision for us. I think we got a sentiment of that with how many people got involved in the consultation last April about facilities, and it was loud and clear that they value the facilities, but we want to really make sure that we're offering the right services, the right range of services at the right times, and that people value that. Our mission, which is more internally focused as an organisation, is to deliver high quality, consistent cultural heritage, sport and lifelong learning services that communities rely on by building a stable, accountable organisation and strengthening our people, infrastructure and partnerships over the long time. So that's more about what we need to do as an organisation to make ourselves robust enough and strong enough to deliver our purpose and our mission. We've got our 5 strategic priorities. Sustainability and investment, which in the next 18 months to 2 years is our main focus, along with building the capabilities and strength in the organisation. So the first 2 really will be an early focus, but we have already started working on them all. Excellence and innovation, impact and inclusion, and partnership and influence. So really trying to work on all of those. For me, it's really important, the inclusion aspect. I think we could be successful as an organisation. We could bridge our funding gap. We could increase participation, increase membership. But if we're only doing that for a subset of our communities and not those who experience barriers, then, to me, that wouldn't be as successful as I would like us to be. So Graham, if we move on to the next and final slide, I think. What does this mean? What would the outcomes look like in 5 years' time when we execute this strategy? Is they become that organisation communities can rely on, delivery of consistent, reliable services, manage a sustainable and strategic estate, so really thinking about what buildings we need and what we should do with them, demonstrate that more people across the Scottish Borders are healthier, better, connected and more able to participate in life of the region because of us. Made the barriers of geographical distance, cost and socialisation measurably smaller by 2026. Strengthen trust with our partners, which is, obviously we've done a massive amount of that with SBC, but that's all our national partners, our regional partners as well. Build strong organisational capability and leadership depth, and embed disciplined decision making. And as an organisation, we're looking at 3 decision making factors. One is what we're about to do, or is what we're being asked to do, does it align and will it help us deliver the strategy? Is it affordable, or could we fundraise to make it affordable? So, and the third one is it the right time? So sequencing wise, is now the right time? If we do this now, even if it aligns with strategies and affordable, would it jeopardise anything else that we're doing that's more important, such as bridging the financial gap? Then we have our CARE values in terms of our values as an organisation, which is to be collaborative, accountable, resourceful, excellent and supporting. And that just happens to spell out CARES, which is nice. So Graham, I believe that was our last slide. So I'm just very happy, Chair, to take any questions, and conscious there's a lot of information in that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katrina. I'll start by saying I think that was an excellent presentation that really did highlight the diversity, of what Live Borders is delivering. And I also think pictures speak a million words as well. So it was lovely seeing all those images at the start. So it was great. I do have questions, but I'm going to, we'll open up to the floor first of all. So any members like to ask any questions or any observations? Councillor Thornton, Nicola Lane.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, lovely to see photos like that. Always makes it feel more human to everybody, I think, and it's easier to share what you're doing in visual form. I'm really impressed by your fairly serious reduction in energy usage. That is amazing, really, really amazing piece of work. I do have concerns about staff absence and staff turnover going up. That by definition is always going to be a concern for any organisation, and yeah, external funding nowhere near as high applications in Q1, but if you know the funding landscape, there's not always money in Q1 regularly, especially if they've had a big year the previous year. A lot of funders hold back. But can I just extend my huge congratulations to everybody involved in getting the Bayou Tapestry to GTOS. I'm quite excited, to be honest, about that. So my questions are very specifically around the staff turnover and the staff absence concerns.
Yeah, so in terms of, I'll tackle staff absences first. That's something I look at regularly, and what I would genuinely say is we have a number, without obviously going into details, we have a number of more serious, longer term conditions which are a factor in that. And they are being well supported and well managed, but they are significant medical conditions. We are very much on top of those lower level absences, and we have quite a detailed back to work process and monitoring process in there. So in terms of, you know, overall concerns, I think there is reasons why we are seeing those absences, and we also use occupational health regularly to support people who are in more of a longer term situation, and workplace adaptations where possible to get them back to work. In terms of staff turnover, we obviously restructured, so you know there was quite a significant movement around of personnel, with some leaving the organisation because the posts are no longer available and we weren't able to find suitable alternatives. That was a low number of individuals, and then quite an extensive recruitment process to backfill a large amount of vacancies that had been frozen and held off on, and were causing us real operational challenges. We also moved all of the leisure staff onto contracts, which they should have been on before that, but that's now all been addressed. So there has been some major changes, but it is that was a big piece of activity in Q1. It is now quite settled. We're back to a routine level of turnover and vacancies. We do also, and particularly on the leisure side, we work with a young set of staff, and we have a lot of students in out, and younger staff who are with us for a short period of time and then move on to other industries and things. So again, not something that we monitor it regularly, not something that I'm concerned about. We keep a very close eye on that.
Thank you for that. It's always the one that I look for. What's the staff doing? But absolutely brilliant explanation. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Jardine, if it's okay just to see Jason put his hand up. I don't know whether you want to contribute to the Councillor Thornton-Nichols' question.
I did. It was just a really quick point. Katrina's largely covered it, but it kind of goes without saying, Scottish Borders Council working with Live Borders have almost required Live Borders to go through the most significant change they ever have over a fairly short period of time. The report that you all considered in November then required Katrina Graham and the Live Borders team to take the whole organisation through perhaps one of the biggest changes that any organisation has seen within the Borders over a significant period of time. And inevitably, there are going to be consequences in terms of both staff turnover and absence levels. I think, and I think this is something that Councillor Thornton-Nichols referred to. Hopefully, we're going to see a long period of stability now for Live Borders, and hopefully those figures reflect that in terms of both staff absence and staff turnover.
Yeah, I should also say we've had a number of retirements as well. So that's also created some movement as well.
I'll just further add as well, just reflected on conversations at Selkirk Leisure Centre of late. 2 members of staff, extremely happy, enthusiastic members of staff, but they're going on to university. So I guess that's probably another example, as you were saying, Katrina, people moving on to other things. Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to Councillor Jardine Ewan.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Katrina, for the report. It was interesting for me. You've been coming along to community conversations, which I thank you. You not yourself personally, you've been at one or two, but then your team's becoming. It's been a good chance to meet the team as well at the community conversations. And you'll remember at one of the community conversations, someone was there talking about how Jedburgh has no tourism. There is literally nobody goes to Jedburgh for tourism, but the stats quite clearly here say the highest generation of tourism for Live Borders are in Jedburgh at the Mary Queen of Scots Visitor Centre and Jedburgh Castle Jail. So how do we get that narrative out there that these are high performing places that people are visiting, people are coming to your town? It's not, people maybe think people are just driving through, but they're actually using these Live Borders facilities, and then they'll be using other cafes, they'll be using other parts. So it's that collective piece. So how do we work together as a council and Live Borders to try and get that narrative out there? And also the other thing I want to say was positive in this report, I think it's really good, is the member retention. Sitting high. I think that's shows you a real promise and a confidence in Live Borders. I think that's what that is. So yeah.
Yeah, so on your second point, it's obviously it has improved, but me being me, as you know by now, I'm not happy with where we're at with the membership. I think it can still improve significantly, and we've got a major piece of work underway to do that in terms of how our relationship with our members can improve. So hopefully we will see further retention improvements there. On the first point, I think it's really interesting because you find that Jedburgh is one of the best in terms of visitors because it's on the route up, and it happens to be quite a good stopover for toilets and food if you're on a bus trip up. And we certainly see it. The attractions there, quite significantly outperform some of our others. So I'm not sure how we get that message out there. I think maybe through some focus groups around how we could improve that. I think we would like to try and get more people up to the jail, for example. They tend to do Abbey, Mary Queen of Scots, bit of a loop, bit of a coffee, bit of a stop in the high street, and maybe less go up to the museum. But with the new attractions up there, that will certainly help. So very happy to work with your own comms team to sort of say, well, how could we try and change that narrative a little bit? I'm not sure, but I do know that I was talking to the Destination Alliance when we opened the escape room, and I said, look, it would be brilliant if we could do corporate things in the evening, so come along at 6 o'clock with your team, go in the escape room, somebody can have a tour, and then have a meal in a restaurant in the town. And they said they've tried that and they just can't get there isn't a restaurant in town. There's cafes, but there isn't, somewhere that you can eat in the evening. So I think it's a multifaceted approach of how could we grow the confidences of the businesses along with the improved, product offering to try and facilitate that. And that's just, sort of one example.
Thank you, Katrina. I'm just looking to see any other hands up, questions, observations. Nope. Okay, I'll come on to a few points I've made. First of all, Katrina, I really welcomed when you picked up on the library and the comparison between physical to online, because obviously, you can look at it in one respect, online's going up, but that whole social isolation and then not physically getting in there. So really, really look forward to ideas about how we do increase that, particularly in the coming winter months. People knowing there's a safe forum space for them. So that was really encouraging. It was something I was going to ask about, but you answered it anyway. Councillor Jardine's making the point about, understanding at a more granular level, I guess, what participation, etc. is like. And I guess my sort of overwhelming thought is, in the paper itself, I'm just taking notes here, we're looking at the new strategic partnership agreement, we're looking to look at the performance management, the indicators for how we're doing. And I'm wondering just whether it is an opportunity to be a bit more granular in some respects, whether it be in this report. Another one, I'll give an example. We're talking about sport memberships going up, which is fantastic. But where is it going up with the preferred locations? Do you know, and I think that information would be extremely useful. Also, we talk about you mentioned about the geographical travelling that's going on that may be needed, and obviously this estate we have at the moment is potentially going to evolve and change, and we're going to be making some tough decisions potentially in the future. So it'd be good to understand more granularly, where is that membership and where are people coming from to appreciate that membership. I can give an example of why I'm asking this particular question, what triggered it really is. Obviously, I know a lot about Selkirk. We're getting a lot of data about that at the moment. And for example, we know the second biggest community coming to Selkirk at the moment are coming from Galashiels. So it'd be nice to understand that whole broader picture. You know, we've got Jedburgh as well, potentially coming back into that wet services estate in the future. If so, currently, how many people are travelling from Jedburgh to Hawick to, you know, for their membership? So I think it'd be good if you could look at if there could be a slightly more granular representation of where people are coming from and joining. That was one question. I had a few more. Do you want to answer that first?
We hold all that information, and we're looking at that on a regular basis. So, you know, we'll take a note for the next time just to do a little bit of a deeper dive on the memberships.
That'd be great, thank you. Graham, I see you.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly proposed under the new performance measures in the SPA, that it can go down to a deeper level or a more granular level, as you say. I suppose with memberships, as Katrina says, we have that information and people tend to have a home site, so we would anticipate they'd use Hawick. So we can show where they are coming elsewhere. For pay-as-you-go or for drop-ins, it's a bit more difficult, but there's certainly something that we can do.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just if it's identifying any key trends that you know, that would be brilliant. Secondly, so the learn to swim figures, and I've seen you've got that in a table with each of the numbers, and it highlights Galashiels is performing well, and these numbers are looking great. But what I don't understand is, I guess, are those numbers reflective of the opportunity that was there? Do you know? Are there a lot more classes available in Gala than there are in, you know, Eyemouth, etc.? So I don't know whether those figures could be complemented with, if you like, you know, actual participation percentages and wait lists based on what's offered, just beyond just the pure numbers, or are the numbers quite indicative of actually that anyway?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, and something we've been discussing internally on the work on the new performance framework is, you know, what is it? So that figure in itself, if there's 500 in a lessons at Galashiels, but there's 1,000 places, then
yes,
you know,
that's my
exactly.
point,
So what we're looking at is to show that as a percentage of overall utilisation, essentially, but also, I mean, genuinely, we're looking at demand. So in some cases there is no more pool time, and even if there was more demand, there isn't anything we could do about it. But in most cases what the team do is they look at the demand coming through, and they'll ebb and flow, so that we're not, you know, there's no point in having 1,000 spaces if the demand's only 500, because we can release that to lane swimming or whatever. So we're constantly moving that about, and that was one of the comments that Graham had in the slides that I skipped over. But you know, if there's a couple of classes that, you know, have less participants in, you know, can we merge that together, and then that lets us get another set of beginners in, you know, for example. So we can certainly look at that. It's one of the things I've challenged the team on, is to be able to sort of say, well, what's the utilisation, and also, you know, been challenging the team that as soon as places get available, they should be released rather than sort of batching them out at, you know, we've got 50 spaces, let's advertise now. So we're looking at a new online form. So if you have a child and you're waiting for a swimming lesson to come up, you can put that inquiry in. It's not a waiting list as such, but once we have spaces, we can email everyone on that list to say, look, you know, we've got some spaces. So there's some work going on in that area as well. But yeah, we take the point, and not just for swimming lessons, for a few other things as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That sounds really good. Another thing I'd like to bring up, I didn't hear the word in that presentation, but it's about accessibility. And it's also reflecting back to the paper at full council last month, Physical Activity in the Sports Strategy, where you did refer to the paper, The Ambition, to work with NHS, 50-50 funding wise. Hopefully that's all going to take off, and there's going to be a lot more referrals. And I think undoubtedly there's going to be potentially a ever increasing requirement for people with more accessibility needs to be able to visit each of our facilities. So I think it'd be quite good to understand some type of sort of accessibility metrics across the estate as well, if that's possible, or something on the radar.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. I think, Graham, I'm not sure, do we have previous accessibility audits that were done when the legislation changes came around?
I would need to look back to see what level of detail we've got.
So that's definitely something that we can look at. I think we have, it is becoming an ever increasing issue. Some funding that we will be bidding for is there's some funding available for changing places, full accessible changing areas, and we're factoring one of those into TLC and then bidding for some national funding that's available. We're hoping to factor one into Tweedbank as well. So things like that make a massive difference. But if you take, I think fundamentally there's a design issue. So if you take the new Gala School, it does have disability parking outside the building. There's some challenges right now that will go away when we get the main car park. But actually, if you don't have a blue badge but you have some mobility issues, it's a long way from the car park up the hill, and then actually it's quite a long way through the lobby.
Yeah.
Even if you have a blue badge, it's a long way through the lobby and things. So I think, to be honest, we need to factor that mindset in from a much earlier design stage as well. And it's obviously factoring into the refurbishment of TLC as well. But these are all things that we need to consider, because we know we have an ever increasing ageing population who we are trying to encourage and who are much more aware than the generation before them about keeping active and the role that keeping active has on ageing well. And we need to make sure our facilities are ready to keep up with that. But that will be part of the sort of strategy of investment and looking at how do we invest in the facilities in the right way to keep more people able to engage with the services that we've got.
Yeah, I mean, I can reinforce that very point you make, Katrina, just from discussions as well. So this data is not presented today, but it's been shared amongst the Selkirk community looking at potential community asset transfer, that 1 in 7 of the members with a preferred Selkirk location are coming from Galashiels, which is quite a high number, which reinforces what you're saying. I've spoken to quite a few of them just through, in the sauna, in the gym, in the class, and it's exactly for that reason. They physically cannot do that walk where they get parked right outside, go in. So that's really what's behind my ask about accessibility. These people making these decisions from these other geographical areas purely for that reason. So yeah, good to understand more around that. I'm just seeing if I have any other questions or queries. Really welcome the business world implementing the same as the council. I'm sure that from a tech point of view, that's going to make things a bit smoother for sure. I don't think I have anything else. I will say, you mentioned all the events at the start. I was fortunate enough to be a volunteer at the triathlon in Selkirk, and it was fantastic. Do you know, and a lovely story, one of the participants came all the way up from London because they found Live Borders on the internet. So it's great that we're getting that reach way down to the other end of the country. I have nothing else to say. I don't see any other members' hands up. So I guess I'm asking members, are we happy to accept today's recommendations on that paper?
Agreed.
Yep, happy.
Thank you very much. So move on to item 6. Any other items previously circulated? I can confirm there's none. Any other items which the chair decides are urgent? I can confirm there are none. And the date of next meeting is scheduled for the 8th of December 2026. And that brings today's meeting to a close. So thank you everyone for your participation. And if we just sit tight until we go off the live stream.